Hello again, Gyongy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's good to be with you again and,
Yeah,
jumping into another episode of the Own It or Quit It podcast.
definitely. Can't wait.
Yeah. So last week, or everyone, when we talked about the previous episode, it was all around personal branding. And it was this whole idea of how do you know who you are? How do you present yourself? And one of the interesting topics that we got to towards the end of that conversation was this whole idea of rebranding yourself. So one of the things that we thought we can do today is focus on with our other expert, who's John G, around mid-career transitions and what does it mean to rebrand yourself? Especially if you've had a track record of success, you feel like you've been in this journey. So, John G, what I was going to do is I was actually going to take this opportunity to interview you and ask you a few questions and learn from the master in terms of, how do people think about, mid-career transitions. So, sound good?
Fantastic. Let's do it.
Okay, fantastic. So as you think about, times in your career where you were at a crossroads, it's probably emotional. It's probably one of those things where you're really taking kind of almost an assessment of who you are, your previous skills, what you've done, and it's a big decision. So can you talk to us a time about when you were at a crossroads in your career? What was that like? And, we may have a few people watching today that are at that same point as well.
Yeah. Yeah, well, my favorite topic, absolutely career crossroads. And I had a couple, interestingly, at the beginning of my career, I had quite a few crossroads. I started in a very different place. I think I shared with some of the audience that I was doing things around theater, and then I changed and I wanted to be a teacher, and then I changed, and then, somehow after a few twists and turns, I ended up in my corporate career. The early changes were very natural. I tried something, I didn't like it or it didn't work out for me, and I just moved into the next one. I didn't, worry too much about it. It's when you're skiing at early childhood, you fall, and then you just stand up, you kind of brush off your knees, and then you move on. But later on, especially after, I had over 26 years of career in corporate HR. When that journey started to feel a kind of, not satisfying for me anymore, that became an uncomfortable place to be because I was feeling an increasing discomfort and an itch for a change, but I had no idea what I should do. And certainly after such a fantastic 26 years with financial security that a full-time corporate job was giving, all my international travels, you know. It is a difficult place to say, okay, well, I'm ready to leave that all behind and just pursue something new. But on the other hand, if you don't do it, then what's going to happen? So I kind of could not imagine to stay in the same situation and the same job for another 15, 20 years potentially until retirement. So what do you do with that? And that transformation was an incredibly important one for me that actually gave me the idea about what I want to do in my next chapter. So the way I did it, I had to lock myself up because, I was doing an incredibly demanding job. I was the global talent lead for a large organization, and long hours, evenings, sometimes weekends, lots of traveling. Um, and I just felt like between two meetings, I can't really think through the rest of my life. So there was an opportunity coming in my way, which was, I was also going through my own little midlife crisis or reinvention, if you like. And there was an opportunity coming my way, a retreat that I paid myself signed up for as my 50th birthday. And I went to Mexico and I spent a week with a group of incredible people under the wings of the Modern Elder Academy by Chip Conley. And that experience was transformational for me for several reasons. One was the content, which was a highly curated content looking into what happens with us around midlife end to end, as well as the location. So I was completely taken out of my normal, daily life, which was London. I ended up on a different part of the earth, a different time zone, a different climate. I woke up and there was the ocean in front of me. It was a balmy weather. We spent half of the day in the pool. We had fantastic, inspiring conversations. I met amazing new people who became, many of them became friends of mine, and we still staying in touch. So that kind of cocooning opportunity was the beginning of a new chapter indeed. And although it took me another couple of years to actually start my new chapter, but the seeds were planted there because that was the place that where I actually had enough time and inspiration to think through the rest of my life.
So that's fascinating. So can you take us back to that point in time before you went to this trip? And how did you have the courage? How did you have the wherewithal to say, you know what, this is what I need? Because when you're living in it, it feels like a big change. It feels like a big step to have to go and take a trip and, dedicate this time. So how did you go about the decision-making process?
Yeah. Well, I caught myself being grumpy, and you know me for a long time. You know that I'm a absolutely positive
Yeah.
person. I love enjoying life. I'm always seeing the bright side of life. And I caught myself being very critical of myself, critical of, what was around me. I felt like I'm not myself anymore. And actually, that time, when you and I were talking about the title of our podcast, that was inspired by that time, that I felt like I could not own that situation anymore. And I had to realize that whatever is happening, although it was fantastic and I learned a lot, but as a life situation, the 9, 10 hours of work a day, the high pressure environment, the sort of work, the way how I was delivering work, I felt like I'm done with that. I want something else. And I realized that if I can't own it, I have to quit it. I owe that to the job because it was a fantastic job that, deserved somebody who does it with full passion and energy. And I was doing that already. That was my fourth year in it. And I owe that to myself as well, I love to live a passionate life and have causes and that are important to me and that I, wake up and I feel super high energy doing them. So I knew that something needs to change,
Yeah.
but I did not know how. And that was a very uncomfortable place to be. I felt super caged and I was proactively looking for solutions. How could I, what should be my first step?
Hmm.
And I came across this posting about this retreat, and that was the light that I was drawn towards. I felt that it makes sense to go away and think.
Yeah.
So that's how that was the kind of run-up process to that
That's
experience.
interesting. And Gyongy, as you were talking about it, one of the things that came to mind is sometimes we're in a career where all of those challenges actually give us energy because it is a hard thing. It's going to be a big challenge. We want to climb the mountain. We want to get this done for our managers. And we wake up every day with this idea that this is going to be hard, but we get energy from that and it's motivating and we want to do it. But then one day that switches And all of
Yeah.
a sudden it feels like I'm not getting any more energy from this, and it's just taking all of my
Yeah.
energy from me, right? So it sounds
Yeah.
like all of us in our career very early on, we're ready for these challenges. So,
Yeah.
I know one of the things I always had to challenge myself with is, am I quitting? Am I giving
Yeah.
up? Am I saying that I don't want to do this anymore? Because I used to be the person that wanted to run into the building and take on these challenges head on. And I'm sure you did as well. But it's
Yeah.
probably this whole idea, if you look at your full self, and is it taking away more energy than you're getting now, right? And I think we
Yeah.
all get to that point in our career where it flips.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's nobody's fault. It
Yeah.
could be, there are situations which, you end up in a toxic relationship at work, or the work itself, becomes boring or overwhelming. But there are also situations when it's nobody's fault, that nothing has changed. You changed. Because
Yeah.
we are evolving, we are changing, our dreams are changing, and ignoring that change, that means in you, that means you're ignoring your own
Mm,
growth and evolution. And I think that's what I felt. I felt like my skin is too tight. And
mm,
I remember talking to people in my network that I dream of being a beginner in something again, to start something super new when I have no idea how to do it and learn the basics from bottom up. And I was also very aware that, over time, it's going to be harder and harder. So if I don't start something new then
yeah.
when, you know?
Yeah. That's right. So very helpful. So let's assume our audience is kind of in the same place, right? Where they used to get a lot of energy from the work that they're doing. Now it feels like it's taking more energy than it's giving to them. When you talk to clients about this situation, is this a 1 hour conversation? Is this a couple of coaching sessions? What's the structure around this? How do you think about, helping someone through these kind of big questions?
Yeah. So the way I work with my clients is incredibly tailor-made to their needs. So I don't have a one size fits all approach. When we have the first conversation, we understand what is the goal and we agree on how we're going to achieve that. So some of my clients, wants a monthly session. Some of them bi-weekly. I have a client who often, we talk twice a week. So the intensity depends on the the goal, but also the ways of working that fits best the client. But there is
Mhm.
one thing I noticed that it is difficult for my clients to do big, deep work and thinking around their future between meetings, right? So we have one session, an hour session, sometimes 90 minutes. Is just enough to kind of get started. And although we work with homeworks and we think about, I give assignments them to continue the momentum, but they step out too quickly from that short cocoon that is offered by a coaching session, and they go on the next meeting, or they go and do chores around the house, or life happens, and by the time we meet again we need to pick up the threads and continue the thinking. And I was always thinking about, I need to find a different offering that might be more suitable for this situation. So this is how I came to the conclusion, remembering what a retreat gave to me, that I'm gonna create these unique personal development experiences where, for people who are in front of those big decisions, and very specifically career next chapter focus decisions, to come away with me for a long weekend or a week, um, and do it in a structured yet spacious and a little bit magical way, that is a combination of thinking, coaching, personal reflections, inspiration. And yeah, so I'm now running retreats in Europe, and soon new destinations will be announced. But I'm also running one-on-one retreats, which is, when you are in a very high pressured situation. Let's say you just learned that you're gonna be made redundant and you need to figure out what's next very quickly. Then we lock in, you and I, for a day, and in the morning we start with where we are now, big chaos, and the
Yeah.
evening you leave with
Mm.
clarity and with a plan of actions. So in a nutshell, I'm looking into working in different ways, but very much developing new offerings around spending more time together in a short period. So retreats
Yeah.
are my next
Yeah.
gigs.
That's so exciting because it's one of those things that you've lived through the power of a retreat. It clearly helped you in your crossroads, and now you've taken kind of the best aspects of what worked for you, and now you're building that for your clients, right? So, the one thing that always comes to mind is, okay, if I wanted to do this, I have two little kids at home, I have a spouse, I have all these personal and professional requirements, right? Let's assume maybe the role is gone and I don't have the professional, kind of commitments anymore, but I have all my personal commitments. I have to take my kids to school. I have to go do these things. How do you talk to clients about making the time for themselves? Because they probably agree they need to do this, but logistically, how, right? Because we all have busy lives and things like that. So how do you kind of help, clients think through how to go
Yeah.
about carving out this time for themselves?
Yeah. So this is a big commitment exactly for those reasons that you mentioned. Also, it's a big financial commitment to go away, for a week in a potentially in the middle of uncertainty when, your job is up in the air. But so therefore, I don't tend to convince my clients to do this. I feel like it's not a solution for everybody, but for
Sure.
those people who need this, they know this is what they
Mm.
need. So my approach is that I'm creating an appetizing sales page for my retreats, which tells the story of what's going to happen there, and I'm sharing that with my network. And if that resonates with them, if they feel that's exactly what they need to do, we're gonna have a magical time together. But it's not a push by any means.
Yeah.
There is also another interesting thing you mentioned about, going away from family. Um, in my upcoming retreat, which will be in a super exotic location, combined with wonderful things in nature, I'm actually encouraging participants to bring their spouse, because what I also learned about midlife career transitions, that is rarely around just you and just your job. By that time, often the change is a family decision. Often other parts of your life is at play as well, relationship, health, and other areas. So I'm encouraging actually my clients to bring their spouses and make them active participants of reimagining this new chapter.
I think that's such a powerful kind of realization by you, right? Because very rarely do we get to make one-sided choices, especially when you're in a relationship with someone, right? Because the impact of making these, mid-career rebranding opportunities, it means also your spouse is probably being rebranded, whether they like it or not, right? They're impacted by this as well. So I think it's really smart that you're allowing kind of
Yeah.
the spouse to be part of this retreat as well.
Absolutely good point. And I remember a conversation with a former colleague of mine, a senior vice president who was retiring. And we had a coffee conversation before the announcement went out. And he said that, I'm fine. I'm ready to go on a painting course and do creative things and teach, and I'm totally ready to leave this behind. But my wife's identity is that she is the wife of a vice president or a senior vice president. Now, how that change management is going to happen, that's more of a headache for me than what's going to happen with me or what I'm going to do. So that was also an inspiration for me actually to open the doors and make it as a couples suitable for couples as well, or anyone, any significant other that you have in your life that you feel is relevant for. I believe that children are probably not well placed for these retreats, but
Yeah,
anything else, friends, key friends, or parents, those are also fantastic
that's interesting.
combinations.
So, Junji, obviously, if someone is interested, they've been listening to us for the last, 15 minutes or so. How do they learn more? Is there somewhere where you can direct them to get to know some more information about these retreats?
Yeah, so stay tuned. Sign up for my the Career Journal newsletter. I'm going to be announcing the retreats there, and also connect with me on LinkedIn. And I'm gonna leave my details to my website as well, where I'm going to be posting about my upcoming retreats, and something really special is coming up in a few days, or if not a week.
Wow.
So stay tuned, and I can't wait to have you there. Actually, I'm one of the best thing about this. What I'm about to do is that we turned into such a virtual world, and I also work with my clients almost entirely over Zoom, like which is a fantastic opportunity because I can talk to you as well. You're on the other side of the globe. But also, I miss human connections. I miss that
Yeah.
face-to-face experience, and I think we all do need that again. So imagine going away and actually looking in the eye of another human being over the fire and tell your story, tell your personal brand story with a glass of wine in your head while you are watching the stars. So that's the kind of element that I'm also very much looking forward with these retreats that I'm about to launch.
It just reminded me of when we were in Central and Eastern Europe and we would have these leadership, workshops that we would all go off as a leadership team. There were moments where we had these opportunities to share our challenges, our fears to each other. And there was something very uplifting and powerful, and it always made the group much stronger because we did
Indeed.
that, right? Now, I think sometimes in corporate America, we try to do team building so much that it feels like a chore, but when you find the right opportunity and you come with the right mentality, it's incredibly powerful. So, for anyone that's watching us today, if you feel like you're at that place and you just need that battery recharge, this might be, an amazing opportunity for you, and it could be eye-opening for the next couple of decades, when you invest in something like this. So, it sounds awesome. So, Johnji, I think as we get to the end of today's interview, thank you so much for all of the, wonderful information. What's some homework? So what's
Yeah.
something to share and help people think through this?
Yeah, so the homework is simple today. Um, so think through, how do you create headspace for yourself to think about what's next for you? What's your practice to create quiet, focused space to think about your future?
Easy. Fantastic. And, just a reminder to everyone, this is episode 6. This is exploring your mid-year crossroads. If you do have specific questions, I would really encourage you to send a message to Junji. She's a fantastic partner in this space, and I know that she can definitely make an impact in all of your careers. So, Junji, thank you so much for letting me interview you today. It was fun.
It was great. Thank you so much, Jissan. There were
All right,
brilliant
until next
questions from
time.
you. Thank you. Take
Take
care
care.
then. Bye.